Hello everyone and welcome to Deeply Simple. My name is Vidushi Sandhir and I'm so glad that you're here. At Deeply Simple, we do what's in the name. We break down deep concepts around wellness, mindfulness, into simple and easy to understand habits, routines, and tools that are not only effective but also time efficient. Let's talk self-care. Now, self-care is this often talked about topic that has picked up so much steam because our world keeps getting faster and more complicated. Even in my YouTube videos, I talk about self-care extensively. But today I'm not here to share tips or advice, but share my own story. The story when, for me, self-care fell on the back burner. And I completely failed to acknowledge that I was not paying attention to myself till certain health issues started cropping up. So what happened? I was doing great. I had self-care days, I had consistent dedication to those days. I was basically walking the talk. Then my grandma passed away. And in another few months, I became a single puppy parent. The first instance brought in grief, and the second brought a lot of responsibilities that I had not anticipated. But what both of them did was get me off course when it came to self-care. Now, before I share how I found my way back to self-care, I do want to say, before anything, self-care starts in the mind. It starts with the way we talk to ourselves. And for me, that started the moment I recognized that I hadn't paid attention to myself. I had two options. I could feel awfully bad about it or resigned, or I could look for ways to reintroduce self-care. And I wanted to be a champion for myself. So self-care starts in the mind. Even if you don't listen to the rest of the video, if you start noticing the way you talk to yourself, that in itself is a form of self-care. But now let's talk about some tactical things that I did in order to find my way back. And to make it easier to understand, let's call it the 4S. The 4S is support, start, simplify, and salute. Let me break it down. Support. So one good thing I think I did and I continue doing has been a focus on therapy. I stopped doing a lot of things when my grandma passed away, but I did not stop therapy. And the ability of a third neutral person to see the change in my lifestyle and priorities was extremely useful. My therapist recognized how self-care had fallen to the back burner before I did. Now, therapy was my mirror. And because I had been consistent with therapy, it was easier for my therapist to see patterns or changes in patterns. With a new therapist, that can be a little bit hard to establish. But support can look and take different forms. It could be talking to a friend, or it could be seeking advice on YouTube. But for me, therapy worked great. The second S, start, or in my case, restart. I decided to find my way back in the smallest possible increment. So basically what I mean by that is that I did not put the pressure on myself to go back to the exact self-care routines I had implemented before my life changed the way it did. However, I did encourage and champion myself to start somewhere. So far, my start has been 30 to 60 minutes a week. I know that sounds small. That is it. 1 hour during which, and this is important, the activities I engage in are nurturing, nourishing, they serve me, and most importantly, allow me to pause from the momentum of productivity. I have to admit, the day I do this, the specific day keeps shifting. Like sometimes it's Monday, some days it's Wednesdays, but there is always that 1 hour during the week. I have full faith that anyone can take out 1 hour out of the 168 hours you have in a week. So I took support, I started somewhere. Now let's get to the third point. Simplify. Now, as I restarted, I completely shoved aside articles talking about self-care. I shut down advice and I decided to listen to myself. I knew that I was starting in small increments, but I also wanted to do something that was so simple that it would not be daunting. So it wasn't a big peak that I had to climb. It was like a short stroll that I had to take around my neighborhood. I could do that. So for now, I take out time to drink tea. My voice kind of went away there, didn't it? I take out time to drink tea. I shut the bedroom door. I leave my puppy with a toy. And I read a book. That is it. Literature takes me to a world of adventure and mystery and allows me to access parts of my consciousness that I forget exist in the mundane operational existence. So for me, this is a very, very specific custom self-care 30 to 60 minutes that apply to me. So support, I started somewhere, I simplified. Now the final one, which is often neglected, is saluting. I celebrate my commitment. Every time I take out the time that I committed for self-care, every time I actually do that, I smile and congratulate myself. I did it. I really did it. And bit by bit, I am hopeful that I'm going to find my way back to making self-care bigger and bigger part of my weekly life and eventually my daily life. So first of all, thank you for listening to my story. If you stayed with me so far, if you take nothing else from this talk, I want you to take away this. You are worth putting time and care into yourself. You exist, and that in itself is miraculous. Celebrate it in a way that is simple, authentically you. Ignore what's there on the internet, and something that is repeatable. I have full faith in you on your self-care journey as I continue having faith for myself. I hope my little story was useful in some way, sending you a lot of love and light. There is a lot of content on the podcast if you want to check that out. And as I mentioned, I also have a YouTube channel. I'm going to drop a link to that below. Thank you so much for listening. Signing off.